Diarrhea! It's time to wake up. It's 5, and we're live.
Oh, is this thing on? I don't care. I want him to hear.
This is the Pregame Show, your early morning shot of sports on 95.7 The Game. Come on!
I am rooting against the Giants. Something tells me Joe Shasky is no longer rooting against the San Francisco Giants. Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. It's the Pregame Show with yours truly, Joe Spadoni. You got me for the next hour right here on 95.7 The Game, leading up to Bonte Hill, Joe Shasky. And we got a lot to talk about. We had the Niners getting a big win, getting back to 500 over the New England Patriots on Sunday, but that to be expected, right? Like, they weren't losing the Patriots. That wasn't happening. It just was. We tried to, church that game up. Oh, if they lose this one, no one ever thought they were losing that game. The Patriots knew they weren't going to win that game. And the 49ers handled business. Now they're back to 500. They got the Arizona Cardinals on deck at Levi Stadium this Sunday. But we have all week for that. We had Warriors Media Day yesterday. Shout out Steiny and Goo for some tremendous interviews that you can find right here on 95.7 The Game via our YouTube page. You can also stream us every single day on Twitch, Twitter, or YouTube, all powered by First NorCal Credit Union. Go ahead and search 95.7 The Game on any of those platforms. Like and subscribe. It would be greatly appreciated. Give me a follow on Twitter at Spadoni_Joe. So we had Mike Dunleavy. We had Kyle Anderson. We had, did I hear Loondog yesterday at some point too? I think I did. Kevon Looney, amongst others. And again, all via the River Islands guest line. Is in time for you to discover the islands, River Islands in Lathrop. So we had that going on. And then we had what took place right after the morning roast ended yesterday. And I can't wait to hear Bonte Hill and Joe Shasky again, because as soon as the news broke, they were both like, you serious? Are you serious? And Sam Lubin, for that matter, too. I'm sure all of us are like,
almost literally as if they waited for the show to end to break the news. 10:04 is when it broke.
You know what? It'd be like that sometimes.
Steiny Guru intro was playing when it broke.
It did. And I didn't see the huge part of the breaking news until a couple minutes later, because yes, Jeff Passan reported first that Farhan is out as president of baseball operations. And if you're just waking up and you've been under a rock the last 24 hours, Farhan Zaidi, gone, to borrow a phrase from the great Dwayne Kuiper. It is out of here. See you later. Night, night. Kaput. The Farhan Zaidi era in San Francisco is finally over, people. You can start coming out of the shadows. You can start coming up from under your bridges. If you're a troll, you could breathe again. It's like at the end of Spaceballs, when all the air gets reversed back into the planet. Air! Air! That's what Giants fans are feeling like today. They got their voices back, it seems like. I feel it. I cannot think of a fan base that has been just so dejected from a vision or from a general manager or for owners withstanding, because we realize the owner we were dealing with here in the Bay Area for the last, 20 plus years, however long John Fisher's been there. We know what his MO is, what he's all about. Just completely inept. The thing with the Giants that was so frustrating for the fans, and I want to hear from the fans at 888-957-9570, because the fan base seems so fractured because of the Farhan Zaidi year, because of how they went about doing their business, because of the inability to sell just one player, just one. You tried to get the Harpers, you tried to get the Aaron Judges, You tried. You brought in a Chris Bryant, great, but that was a rental. And Chris Bryant, God love the guy. He's not those other people. Chris Bryant's a forever legend in Chicago. It's great. But the Lamont Wade Jr.'s of the world, the Mike Yastrzemski, who's been a fun player. He's been fine. Mike had a good year, solid year. But those kind of just slightly above average platoon players, it was getting old. And it was getting stale. And you kept looking up at the payroll and saying, wait, how do we keep spending all this money and yet we don't have anyone of like extreme relevance? How is this possible? Yes, you got Logan Webb. Yes, you got Blake Snell. You got Robbie Ray. Those are names. And those are guys that are pitching once a week. That's great to see. But the everyday players, I think, was the most frustrating aspect to Farhan Zaidi. Not that the pitching staff was the greatest either. Again, you were platooning there at times with the openers. You know, you tried the experiment with Jordan Hicks this past year, and it worked until it didn't. Because everyone saw the writing on the wall. When you got a guy that's a converted reliever into a starter, what's going to happen when he starts entering a threshold that he's never seen before with innings pitched? Oh, he got tired. The velocity went down. He starts getting knocked around. And that's what happened. But yesterday felt like a fan base that could finally breathe again. And when you have that news, and again, I start off as saying, I didn't even see the Buster Posey news until a couple minutes later. I just saw the passing thing. And Buster Posey is going to be the next man up. The MVP, the 3-time World Series champion, the Gold Glove winner, the future Hall of Famer, Buster Posey is going to be that guy to take over Farhan Zaidi. Yeah. If I'm a Giants fan, that speaks to me. Because I know the person that Buster Posey is. He's a no-nonsense guy. He's all about his business. And he's in the business of winning at the highest level. Because he's done it 3 times. 2010, 2012, and 2014. And when you make a move like that, it signals to a fan base that we're ready to get serious again, because this has not been a serious organization the last few seasons. They had one fluke year, and that's what it was. Back in 2021, that was a fluke season. We can all see it now. Congratulations. You maxed out. You have the greatest regular season winning percentage you've ever had in franchise history. And what did that mean? You lost in 5 games to the hated Los Angeles Dodgers. That was the high watermark point. The guy that you brought over from the Dodgers and Farhan Zaidi couldn't get past that team, and he got to the promised land. Not even once. He got to the second round, right? If you're saying the regular season's the first round, but you get what I'm saying. You got into the tournament. And that wasn't enough. And the farm system. That was another thing. This promise of when Farhan Zaidi came in here, the promise was, wow, we're going to not only have the payroll of some of these top teams in Major League Baseball, because we're going to spend, but we're also going to have a Moneyball aspect to us. So we could find players like the Dodgers have found, like the A's have found, where Farhan came prior to going to the Dodgers. We're going to find some of those international signings that Farhan hung his hat on with Oakland when he was the guy that brought in, reportedly, Yoenis Cespedes. He was the one that found him. Great. Can't wait. Get the Chris Taylors of the world, right? The Kike Hernandezes of the world. Can you bring in guys like that? And then we can get some big fish. The problem is, as Farhan soon realized, San Francisco's not Los Angeles. It's a lot different. LA, it's glitz and glamour, and they are always going to be able to get Ohtani, Betts, even though that was a trade. They're going to be able to get guys like that. Freddie Freeman. The list goes on and on and on. They will always have that. It's a lot more difficult in San Francisco. And I think he found that out in the last couple seasons. He did the blame game. He blamed the region. He blamed the politics. He blamed everything. Oh, people just want to stay on the East Coast. If you're from over there, players are from over the East Coast. They just like to stay there. Even though Shohei Ohtani's from another country, yeah, I guess he wanted to go to LA. But, if he could have stayed in Japan, he would have. Please. Exaggerating at the end there, but that's what it felt like. When I kept listening to the excuses of this guy, that's just what it came down to, excuses. It came into, this is why we weren't competing. We were hoping for this. There was a lot of hope when I kept hearing Farhan speak to the media. Yeah, we were hoping for this. It didn't work out that way, but we're confident in this. I got to ask Giants fans, is there anything you're going to miss about Farhan Zaidi? 888-957-9570. Now, one David B. Fleming, who's our 95.7 The Game Giants insider, joined Willard and Dibbs yesterday, courtesy of the River Islands guest line. And he spoke about the fan base and why they're going to love this move with Farhan out and Buster in.
The fan base is obviously going to be energized by this. It's no secret that the fan base, and I understand why, has been very cranky over the last year or two. And I think there's a couple reasons why. Number one, the Giants just have not won as many games as they expected to or believe they should have. So that gets everybody cranky when you feel like you're underachieving, when you feel like you're not making progress. Number two, it's just an incredible contrast over the last few years of what's going on with the Giants' main rivals down in L.A. And so I think those two things together have made everybody really unhappy around here. And probably hastened the decision that got made today.
Dave Fleming, by the way, who again, 95.7 The Game Giants insider, joins the morning roast once a week, but we needed an emergency Flem on the station yesterday. I hope Bonte and Shasky aren't mad about it. We'll still get him at one point this week as Sam gives me a look. By the way, not only is Sam Lubman going to be at the Cal-Miami game this week, Dave Fleming is going to be calling it, baby. ACC rivalry getting established this weekend out in Cal. And they got college game day, baby. Let's go. That'll be pretty fun. It's going to be, we're going to get, it's not Pac-12 after dark, but it's going to be ACC after dark on West Coast. Oh, it's going to be lit. The Cal Twitter, real quick, we'll get back to the Giants and everything, trust me. But the memes, and I wasn't aware of Cal football Twitter until recently.
The Calgorithm, as it's called.
The Calgorithm, thank you. That is unbelievable. But I'm just, they're calling it the communists versus the convicts, a la the Catholics versus the convicts of that 80s rivalry between Notre Dame and Miami, the communists. It's all time. And Cal leaning in to the whole, everyone on the West Coast and in Berkeley is woke, but Cal just leaning into it and cranking it to 11 is all time. I got so much respect for that fan base and for the Twitter fan base and everything. It's all time. It's all time. I hope Cal somehow runs the table this year. Sorry, Sam, if they win this game. And they're somehow in the playoff picture. That would be insane. Now, it's going to probably not happen because you lost to Florida State, and Florida State stinks. Had you have beaten them, then there'd be a lot more juice on this game. Both of these teams would probably be ranked, as Miami is ranked number 8 in the country right now. Cal unranked, but if they won this game, they would probably jump in there. All right, just had to get that off my chest. Dave Fleming going to be on the call there for ESPN, as he is every week calling some college football games. And I'm sure he's going to be a lot more excited calling Giants games next season with Buster Posey being the face. It's interesting, right? Not that the writing was on the wall that Posey was going to be president of baseball operations, because I still think that was a little bit of a shock for some people, at least for me. Now, some might have looked at, the reports a couple weeks ago that Matt Chapman did that big contract extension and saying Buster Posey was the guy that got that done. That he was the guy, saying that we need to keep this guy. This is a pillar of an organization. Matt Chapman has been consistent as hell this year. He's our best player defensively. We need to pay this guy. And you saw the reports leak that it was Buster Posey that was heavily involved in the negotiations. Maybe that was the first writing on the wall here as we're looking back that, you know what? Posey might have a future doing this. And Farhan not making the playoffs, being 2 games under 500 for the season, his days were numbered. I mean, 3 straight seasons of just, is not going to get it done. Not in San Francisco, not where this team has been at the early part of the last decade, winning 3 World Series. And not what was promised when he was brought in here. Improved farm system. Didn't really do that. Getting some star players. You got some, but they're going to leave. Like Blake Snell, I don't think he's coming back. Or maybe, and we're going to see with Buster Posey, see how much juice he has with some of these players. Maybe he does come back. But it was a risky move. Getting the 1-year player options. And for the love of God, what I'm hoping for most with Buster Posey is the player option just decreasing dramatically. I swear to God, every single Farhan contract had to have an option of some sort. It couldn't just be all this, no trade clause, yada, 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 which is what Matt Chapman got. He got the extension with the no trade clause. There's no option attached there. And that was Farhan's favorite thing. The option. Oh, we got to have some optionality here for the player. Well, when the player has 1 good year, then he's going to go. Like Carlos Rodon, like, who's my guy? Kevin Gausman. And like Blake Snell. These guys are going to be one and done. It's like they're playing at Kentucky with John Calipari, who I know is out in Arkansas now. Relax. I know. From the Xfinity mobile text line, 510, it's a breath of fresh air. Excited for Giants baseball again. Time to rebuild the farm system. There you go. I think there's just, it gave this organization a boost. Now, I don't know how Buster Posey's going to fare. I'm going to be honest. It might not be great. That transition from being an elite player to the front office, it's not easy. And Mike Dunleavy actually spoke to it yesterday. I thought Steiny did a hell of a job because as this news broke, you're at Warrior Media Day, but you're talking about this. You had to pivot. And I thought it was interesting asking a former player like Mike Dunleavy, who played for the Warriors, who played for that organization, he bounced around, played for the Bulls, played for the Pacers, played for a lot of teams. But that transition from being a player to being a part of a front office and the personnel decisions and all of that, what comes with it, and a lot of the non-basketball or baseball related stuff, right? Here's what Mike Dunleavy had to say, first of all, about the pressure of being in that position that Buster Posey now finds himself in with the San Francisco Giants.
No, I wouldn't say I feel pressure. It's just something we want to do. I think everybody's in alignment here, whether it's the players, the owner, the coaches, and the fan base. You know, we're all in the same boat. We really want to win. It's been a hell of a run over the last decade plus, and we want to keep this thing going and contend for titles every year. But no, there's no pressure. It's the job. It's what I signed up for. I really enjoy it. Love coming to work every day and trying to find ways to get better. And so if it was too much or there's too much pressure, I was feeling it, you know, I'd probably just go play golf or something.
And the pressure is a little different, I think, when you are a player, because that's real pressure, right? Like for Mike Dunleavy being a top 10 lottery pick and trying to be a savior of a franchise and getting booed off the floor, that's pressure. And just being a guy in the front office, making some moves, maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. Like nothing will hurt more than being on a floor in front of thousands of people getting your ass booed. And that happened to him as a player. Nothing will, feel like the pressure of catching as a rookie in the biggest stage of your life in a franchise that has never won in this market a World Series. That's what Buster Posey did. And then he did it 2 more times. That's pressure. You look at John Lynch winning a Super Bowl, being a Hall of Fame player as he was. That was pressure. Not to say that there is none for these guys, because there is. It's just different, though. And there's levels to this. And I think more so as players, they're able to embrace it more and embrace the challenges of said pressure. And not to say that you had to play the game. You didn't. Howie Roseman doing a hell of a job for Philadelphia, has a Super Bowl trophy. I don't even think has thrown a football in his life. Still one of the best in the business. So I don't think you had to have played. But I do think Farhan not being a player, coming from a couple different organizations, just never really connected with the fan base. Just never did. Right? Whether it was his awkward jokes that he would try to say, and, whether it was this, again, speaking of awkward jokes, doing something like this.
I actually just got off the phone with the White House. I called to ask if negotiating 3 deals with Scott Boras in one offseason qualifies you for a Presidential Medal of Freedom.
God love you, Farhan. The comedy was not your strong suit. And I understand that because I try to do comedy here 5 to 6 Monday through Friday. And sometimes the shows are laughable enough. Shout out to all of you listening on the Odyssey app. It is free. Download that and thousands of other stations. And shout out to all of you just getting off work, getting ready for work, getting ready for school. It's going to be toasty this week, folks, and especially today. So please stay inside if you can. Put on that sunscreen. Stay hydrated. Get those electrolytes. Stay out of the sun. It hurts. I just told everyone to start coming out of the shadows, and all the Giants fans that can finally breathe again, well, just stay in the shade. Stay under the palm trees. Stay on that cool grass. You'll be okay. But it's going to be a heat wave out here. So whether in the East Bay, North Bay, South Bay, you're on the coast, it's still going to be hot here in the city. Stay hydrated. Stay safe. That's my Odyssey PSA one thing for you today. And getting back to Farhan Zaidi and his inability to connect to just the average fan, I think that's at the core of this. If you can't connect to your fan base, like through television, through interviews, through talking to people, if you can't connect that way, you better be able to land a big fish in free agency. You better be able to create a winning product. Like, I don't hear, and you never really heard. Now, he did some interviews weekly back in the day when he was still the general manager or president of baseball operations. But I'm going to go to a guy like Billy Beane, who Farhan worked with. Billy didn't like to be in the spotlight. That was not his thing. That's not his MO. That was never what he wanted. They ended up making a movie about the guy, and Brad Pitt played him. But, day to day, he kept his head down. They even talked about that in the movie. He just didn't want to be that center of attention. And that's fine. But he let his moves do the talking. He would find guys that became MVP candidates. He would get, the Josh Donaldsons. He would get, player X, a Frank Thomas, someone cast it off, but he'd have a career year, right? Like, he would do those moves and let his moves do the talking. I think Farhan hoped that would be the case. Hey, listen, I found some good players. I found some guys that did some good stuff. That's great. We were promised we were going to keep those guys, though. This isn't the Oakland days where they had to do rebuilds every 3 to 4 years after building all the Marcus Simeons, Matt Chapmans, Matt Olsons up, right? I want to be able to keep all those guys. And it was refreshing to see, Chapman produce this season and then get rewarded for it. And kept the everyday player that's going to be there at third base, you would hope, for the next 3 years. From the Xfinity mobile text line, can't wait for Giants talk to be over. How about Tony Pollard scoring that garbage time touchdown? Hey, Oreo, I love you. Don't be spamming that all day, or you'll get blocked on the Comcast business text line. All right? Can't be spamming me. Not even at 5 a.m. I love you, Oreo. I could not care less about the Tennessee Titans or the Miami Dolphins, though. Could not care less about that. Could not care less, really, about... No, I'm not going to say that, because that Lions game was pretty sweet. They did the Philly special. Are they called the Detroit special now? Amon-Ra St. Brown, that dime ski to Jared Goff. Jared Goff, by the way, with, you could argue, the greatest regular season performance of all time. Most completions ever completed without an incomplete pass, if that makes sense. 18 for 18. Perfection for Jared Goff. Man. Lions look good. Their defense, though, and Bonte was talking about this when we were talking about the chat, it's a little bit of maybe we overrated Seattle's defense a little bit. They had some of their starters missing on the road, Monday Night Football. Detroit, hey, they got dudes. Jameson Williams is a baller. Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery, Amon-Ra St. Brown, just a plethora of riches. Sam Laporta, he's had a slow start to the season, but he's still really good, right? And then, DK Metcalf fumbling, trying to fight for it. There was just some self-inflicted wounds there. But it was fun to watch. So after that last night's performance, maybe you think a little less of that Seattle defense and just maybe a little bit more of the Detroit Lions offense. But I thought a little bit more of Geno Smith yesterday, too. I thought he played very well. He was running for his life a lot. And I think that bodes well, hopefully, for the Niners if their pass rush can build off this performance they had against New England. Now, they're not going to be playing as decimated offensive lines as they did with New England. But, we just talked about that 2 weeks ago, right? They were playing a decimated O-line in the Los Angeles Rams, and they couldn't get a lot of pressure on Matt Stafford. So, can't wait to break that game down. That'll be next Thursday, by the way, in Seattle. That is going to be a massive game, and we'll be breaking all that down pre, post, all week long, right here at 95.7 The Game. We're going to get back more into Farhan Zaidi being let go by the Giants. Buster Posey now, the president of baseball operations. How do we feel about that? How will you remember the Farhan Zaidi era in San Francisco? And how refreshing is it to see Buster Posey, a face of that franchise for a very long time, becoming the face once again? We'll discuss that as the pregame show, Joe Spadoni, rolls on 95.7 The Game.
Point!
Hey, you okay? You don't normally miss those shots.
I just haven't been as regular lately, and it's making me feel sluggish.
pregame show with Joe Spadoni on 95.7 The Game.
Andrew Wiggins? Andrew Wiggins, now my favorite player if he's doing a pregame show rejoin. Let's go. Warriors Media Day yesterday. We still got a lot to get into there. Bay Area right now has so many damn stories. So many damn storylines happening. We got NFL football. The Niners, they're at 500. They've had some ups. They've had some downs. They've had a lot of injuries. They got back into the winning column, but they got a huge game now. Divisional rival against the Arizona Cardinals. Kyler Murray and co. Black Ops 6 is coming out. We'll see if that's going to hinder his performance this coming Sunday. But you got Farhan Zaidi out as president of baseball operations. Buster Posey in. And you had Warriors Media Day. You had Mike Dunleavy. You had Draymond Green. You had Steph Curry talking. And, But why listen to any of those guys? But you can listen to David Fleming. And what I like about Dave Fleming is, yes, does he work for the team? Is he biased? Yes. All these guys are. All these announcers are. All these play-by-play color analysts. Yes. But Flem will also keep it real at times. And you can hear it with his emotion. When he talked about this team, it was a lot of frustration. It was a lot of just, why are we doing this? Why are these the decisions? And maybe he knew all along why the decisions were, but doesn't mean you have to agree with them. And I heard and found Flem disagreeing with a lot of what the Farhan Zaidi era represented. Again, these are my words, not his. But that's what I gained from all these interviews he's done on this station for the last few seasons now. Now, here's Fleming, who joined the station yesterday, again, courtesy of the River Islands guest line, on what the legacy of Farhan Zaidi will be.
First-round draft picks did not work very well. And Patrick Bailey is a big exception, and Bryce Eldridge looks like he's going to be a massive exception. And if that turns out to be the case, then one of the legacies of Farhan's era here is going to be that kid who has a chance to be a big-time star for the Giants. And I think that would very much change Farhan's legacy, looking ahead if Bryce Eldridge turns into that kind of player. But otherwise, you got, a high-round draft pick track record that didn't produce enough impact. And it's not just impact that gets to the big league level. It's impact that you use in trades, in deals, in being creative. It's something we've seen the teams in the National League West do, all of them. Dodgers have done it, Padres have done it, Diamondbacks have done it. Use your assets to make trades and make deals. And for some reason, the Giants just have not done any of that. Like, there just have been no attempts to find matches in trades where maybe your talent and somebody else's talent, whether it's a challenge trade with prospects, whether it's flipping some young guys for veterans, or vice versa. That just didn't happen over the last 6 years, almost without exception.
The inability to really just bring this prospect pool into the forefront was the nail in his coffin, because that was supposed to be the thing. You bring over here the salary cap. There's no salary cap, but all the salaries to all the older players was a mess. You came here. You didn't have anyone to be excited about in the system. Yeah, you had Marco Luciano, whatever, right? And he didn't turn out to be anything. You were supposed to come in here, gut everything, bring it back up, and then, you know what? We can go swing for a big fish if we want to trade for someone and extend them for a Juan Soto, right? Someone like that, like the Dodgers did with Mookie Betts. And then you re-sign him and you keep him here, because just attracting free agents isn't going to cut it. You have to swing trades. And to do that, you got to have prospects other teams want. No one wanted the Giants prospects. And it was already too late by the time you figured out these prospects weren't going to be what you thought. It's too late at that point because the cat's out of the bag. Like with Kyle Harrison. This guy, some Giants fans consider to be untouchable within the last couple seasons. That guy? Really? He's shown some stuff, but untouchable? Like, I mean, if you're talking about Shohei Ohtani and training for a rental, really? Now, maybe Ohtani doesn't come, but I would have respected the move. You just try to do something. And now you're Not going to get anything for him. Marco Luciano, what are you going to get for him? Bag of chips? Cool Ranch, spicy nacho? I don't know. Not getting a lot. So that was a frustrating aspect to all of this, is that at least, you thought you were going to get an improved farm system. You didn't really get that. Here's more from Fleming talking about what he expects Posey to, what he expects from Posey in regards to major changes up and down the Giants franchise.
Big changes, I think, are coming. I do. I think there will be a lot of front office changes. There'll be some coaching staff changes. There'll be player development changes. I think part of why this is happening is the Giants were less than thrilled with what was going on under the hood, up and down the organization. And, some of that's reflected in just pure player development. Some of that's reflected in communication with your staff up and down your organization, all that kind of stuff. Well, I think it's natural. It's just independent of all that. I think it's natural for somebody who's taking over to have an opinion about the types of people and the sort of the philosophies that person wants in place.
And finally, what does Flem think of Buster Posey overall getting this job, and the job that potentially could be difficult for a guy just making his first, dipping his toes into the waters of player personnel for the first time?
I mean, I guarantee there will be a GM, whoever that is. Buster needs some big time help in terms of. I have full faith that Buster can do this job. Smart, driven, motivated people can figure out how to do this. It's complicated, but it's not that complicated. Like he can do this job, but you need some help on just the rules, transactions, day-to-day nuts and bolts stuff. If you've never worked in a front office, he's familiar with all that stuff and how it works sitting on the executive committee, but he probably needs somebody who really has some experience and know-how in that regard to help him out. So I'm sure they're going to be interviewing some people for some high-level front office positions, assistant GMs, whether it's a full-time GM or however they structure it. I think we'll see a bunch of changes.
Again, that was Dave Fleming, voice of the San Francisco Giants and R95.7 The Game Giants insider, joined Willard and Dibbs yesterday, courtesy of the River Islands guest line. Find that interview and all the interviews we had yesterday on YouTube, or download that free Odyssey app. It is also on there. All right. Knowing what you don't know whenever you're going into a new position is most important. Knowing what you don't know and surrounding yourself with people that do know those things that you need some help with, ultimately is going to decide your future in that field. I remember John Lynch. First thing he said when he was being interviewed for doing a press conference or sitting down when he got the GM job with Kyle Shanahan, he literally said, I know what I don't know. And I'm going to be leaning on people within the 49ers organization that we bring in that know a hell of a lot more about being a general manager and being a president of football operations or baseball operations or whatever sport. Surrounding yourself with knowledgeable people and leaning on them at times. It's okay. And, I think there's too many people in this world that have this ego where they can't ask for help. And it's okay to ask for help. It's okay. That's what the greats do. You don't think Joe Lacob asked for help when he became owner of the Golden State Warriors after getting booed off the floor on Chris Mullin's jersey night? I don't think he's asked for help. Everyone does. Everyone needs help. And Buster Posey's no exception. Guy's won 3 World Series. He's going to get some people within that organization to help him out, whether it's people he's come across in the past, whether it's guys like, Brian Sabian, who I know is working with the New York Yankees, but maybe it's a guy like that. Maybe you bring in someone that's familiar with the organization from the past that you can lean on. All right. We're up against it. One more break, one more segment before handing it off to Bonte Hill and Joe Shiaski at the top of the hour. They're fired up. Farhan Zaidi is gone. Buster Posey is in. Your thoughts as we put a bow on this Tuesday's edition of the pregame show. Joe Spadoni on 95.7 The Game.
We all hear the radio ads about the IRS. They tell you to be afraid, to be scared, and they try to frighten you into calling. I'm not here to do that. Tax relief.
Joe Spadoni. You're listening to the Pregame Show with Joe Spadoni. Right here on 95.7 The Game.
Thanks, Bonte. Bonte's in a great mood. He was at Warriors Media Day yesterday. Shasky's in a great mood. We're all in a great mood here today. I wonder why. Does it have to do with the fact that the 49ers got a huge victory? Warriors training camp and preseason is about to be upon us? Or is it just the fact that Farhan Zaidi is now gone as president of baseball operations and Buster Posey, future Hall of Famer and Giants legend, has now taken on that responsibility? So 888-957-9570. I want to hear from the Giants fans. We got one more segment here before handing it off to those guys. They're fired up. I'm fired up. I just had a custard donut, and you know what? It was delicious. And people either love the custard or hate it. I like the custard. Yeah, you can go ahead and isolate that, grab that sound. You can play it whenever you want. I, Joe Spadoni, love custard. It's delicious. I'm a jelly donut guy too. Love a good jelly donut. Now, I'm going to be regretting that later because I'm really not supposed to be eating before 12 o'clock. But it's okay. It's a Tuesday. It's really the worst day of the week, so I kind of deserve it. Tuesdays stink. Monday, we got that football reaction. We got everything. Everyone's talking to it. But Tuesdays, it's like, But today, God, we got a lot of action. A lot of action. And speaking of action, you know, I was talking about it earlier. The transition that Buster Posey is going to be making as a player to now a player personnel guy in a front office is different. It's not all going to be X's and O's and trading for players and signing players. It's going to be a lot of, you know, spreadsheets and looking at, you know, different looking at a bunch of different crap you don't want to look at, but it's part of the job. That's what I'm trying to say. And here's Mike Dunleavy, a guy that had to make that same transition, taking over for Bob Myers, but Dunleavy, being a pro player, knows the player side very well. But knowing the personnel side and the decision-making and the paperwork, all that sort of stuff, here's what he learned about being in the office.
I mean, I think the biggest thing that I took from it is it ends up being less content, like basketball-wise, than you were hoping for. Get other stuff off the court, things to deal with, obviously talking with agents and different stuff that's almost not exactly basketball-related. And so I think when you think of this job and what you're taking on, you're thinking about who are we going to draft or who are we going to trade for and all that. And that's certainly a part of it. But other things end up coming on your plate, and they come at you fast, and you got to figure things out. And it's a great challenge, but, you know, when you're kind of at the head of basketball, so to speak, it actually doesn't end up being as much basketball maybe as you would like it to be.
And speaking of basketball here, and I know we've been talking about Farhan Zaidi for the first 50 minutes of this show, but something happened yesterday at Warriors Media Day that was very interesting. And I want to get into it right now as we have so many different, and God bless whoever cut Draymond Green yesterday. I think it was Cam. God love you, Cam. We have like multiple cuts to say part 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have one that says 5 different cuts. So Draymond was very long-winded yesterday is what that tells me, which is fine. I listened to some bits and pieces. And let's get into this one. Scott Ostler, San Francisco Chronicle. We've had him on the station many a times. Very well-respected journalist here in the Bay Area. Whether you love him or hate him, he's very respected amongst his peers. That means something to me, being a part of the media. Worked with his son. Gabe used to be a producer at the station. Very nice guy. Got a lot of respect for Scott. I've interviewed him multiple times here on the station. Here he is in a back and forth with Draymond Green yesterday that went viral. And I'll just let Scott take it away.
You know people worry about you. Fans, maybe your teammates.
Why they worry about me? I am a successful black man in America doing incredibly well. What's the worry?
They worry about you.
There are way more people in this world to worry about than me, that's for sure.
But we're here now, so.
We're all here. I don't think you should worry about me.
Okay.
I'm doing pretty well. If you would have told me when I was 13 years old in Saginaw, Michigan, without a pot to piss in, that you'd be sitting here and somebody would say they're worried about you, I would have probably told them they were out of their mind. mind. I'd be sitting here and they'd be worried about me.
Well, they're worried from themselves too. They want to know.
They don't feed.
They know the team needs you.
So why are they worried?
Because they know the team needs you.
But they don't feed.
And
them
they don't know if
their
you're going to be here.
Doing this.
That was part one. Here's the second part.
I'm here. I've been here for 13 years now.
If you're going to be here every night.
Been here pretty much every night for 13 years. Very much so. We all have. Look, Kevon Looney played 82 games 2 years in a row, and everybody was celebrating. We all miss games.
They want to know if you're going to be here by now.
I'm always here. And suspensions, the guideline of getting suspended is something that's in place because it's a possibility. So
Nothing changed.
I don't know what would change, but I don't get the question. I think my mindset has helped us do some great things. It's pretty cool. So it's all about how you spin it. I love how you try and spin it, but it ain't my spin to it, player. So yeah, it's good.
All right. So there's a lot going on here, obviously. And I get what Scott's trying to ask. He's basically being like, hey, man, like, you can't miss a quarter of the season again due to suspension. And that's going to be on your teammates' minds throughout this season. Are we a Draymond suspension away from our season being over? And that is why they would think that they are worried about him. Now, Draymond, he got defensive real quick. Went out to him. He's like, hey, I'm a successful black man, yada, yada, yada. All this goes into this whole diatribe. And I don't think Scott was wanting to get into all that, but you had to have known if you're going to come at Draymond in suspension talks that he's going to get a little defensive, as Draymond has been known to do time to time. I just think the question probably could have been directed a little bit better. And again, Scott's been doing this a lot longer than I have. So maybe he'll agree with me, maybe he'll disagree, which is fine. I would have just simply asked, how confident are you in not getting suspended this year? Draymond, are you confident that you're not going to miss 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 games due to suspension? And simply, you could have just put the onus on him and saying, oh yeah, I want the money grab. I want the quote saying, I'm not going to get suspended this year. Because he's not going to say that. He's going to leave it open-ended because it's Draymond Green. It's how he plays. He toes that line. And unfortunately, he's crossed that line way too many times. And it's put his teammates, which Scott alluded to, in bad positions. To now they have to worry about him, but also themselves because he's affecting the team. So I get what he was trying to do. I don't think he was trying to, oh, gotcha, spin out anything. Like, there's a legitimate question to be asked here, Draymond, because if you're not going to be here for the entire season, like this season's already kind of teetering when it comes to just the looks of the roster. Like, you might not even be a play-in team. Yeah, Kyle Anderson. Yeah, Buddy Hield. Yeah, DeAnthony Melton. Great. But you try to get Paul George. It didn't work out. You try to get Lauri Markkanen. It didn't work out. And Draymond talked about that, and we'll get to some of his sound a little bit later, but that was kind of the eye-opener yesterday along for Warriors Media Day. Steph talked about the Olympics, stuff like that, talked about the A's leaving Oakland. We'll get into that a little bit more tomorrow probably, but I don't have a problem asking about the suspension. I just had a problem with how it went about right there. And Draymond wasn't falling for it. And he, just pressed back. Said, oh yeah, don't try to spin it. And I don't think there's anything to spin when it comes to the suspension talk. Like, you did the actions, Draymond. There's nothing to spin here. You've done some pretty stupid things on the court that resulted in your indefinite suspension last year. Are those stupid things now behind you? Are those things that cost your team wins behind you? That's what I want to know as a fan and also as a media member. Because I saw all the different fans defending Draymond yesterday when this thing came out. Oh, they're just trying to get Draymond. They're all out to get Draymond. No one's out to get Draymond. See, that's the problem. It turned into everyone's out to get Draymond. No one was out for a gotcha answer there. Like, that's the thing in all this. No one's out to get Draymond. Everyone thinks Draymond brought all this upon himself. They're not even asking this question if he wasn't indefinitely suspended at any point last year. That's another thing in all this. Like, just don't do what you did last year. We're not even talking about it. But he did. So we're going to. And we're going to continue to discuss it because he is literally one boneheaded, backhanded slap away to Yusuf Nurkic for maybe missing an entire season because he's on such short leash when it comes to punishment with the NBA. So, could it have been asked better? Yes. Do I get what Scott Osler was trying to say? Yes. It just wasn't executed perfectly. That's fine. And listen, this is me with
like the Farhan regime.
Oh, there you go. Joe Shasky's he can't even help himself. He's got to be talking about Farhan being gone. Far gone-anxiety is what they're calling him these days. There you go. I'll give myself a 5 there. We got one more minute left.
Is there a staff meeting?
I think there is a staff meeting today, Joe Shasky. Real quick, I mean, since we're saying goodbye to Farhan, I'd be remiss if I didn't play the joke that he opened up with a couple months ago, or some months back now, about the Blake Snell and the Matt Chapman signings and doing some deals with one Scott Boras.
I actually just got off the phone with the White House. I called to ask if negotiating 3 deals with Scott Boras in one offseason qualifies you for a Presidential Medal of Freedom.
I hope Farhan does get that Presidential Medal of Freedom. I hope he does. On 95.7, The Game.
You're listening to 95.